According to our analyst, Frosker, and Icon is currently in Elo hell as he tries to drag his team over the finish line. 3-8 OMG up against a rejuvenated RNG since they brought back Uzi. It looks like an uphill battle, and it seems like it's just going to continue throughout this series.
I mean, frankly, we've got a couple of teams and a couple of players that feel like they're just kind of stuck grinding through that hard-stuck D5, if you will. We got Jinu and LGD. We've got Icon and OMG. It's an uphill climb.
It's not looking good for OMG, but they still have a series to work with. And we already said it's going to be very difficult for them to try and take down the current form of RNG. But you gave them some guidelines. But unfortunately, it didn't seem like OMG understood them well enough. So during the break, we talked about it. You seem to have added a few more details on how to beat RNG. So do you want to share that with us?
I mean, yeah, ban Rise and Sejuani. No, a big part of OMG right now, and this isn't just in the RNG series, is that they're just not, they have a bad read on the meta. They're not drafting very well. I don't know if this is because World 6 and, whoever's playing in their jungle, either Fire Lily, Jackal, or World 6, and because they haven't been, playing on the stage, that maybe their champion pool's a little bit more brittle because there was 2 jungle bans, Skarner and Olaf, and then a priority pick of Sejuani, and so he somehow lands on Jarvan. And Jarvan's okay, like ganking junglers are stronger on 8.5, but he doesn't have a lot of hard CC lockdown in pretty much any of his lanes to assist them. He had it in the top lane, but it wasn't a priority on top lane. He was immediately running into the mid lane. So, even when they draft the composition, they just can't quite read their win conditions correctly. It just kind of feels like a mess everywhere. There's too many threads right now, and you can just start pulling each individual one, and OMG are unraveling.
Yeah, so it's going to start with champion select for OMG. Let's see if they're able to adapt going to game number 2, because that's quite a short turnaround for them.
Yeah, and the important thing to note is that they are going to be on red side. So, same exact thing, they're on red side in game number 1. It does give them access into a counter pick in their solo matchups. So, typically, one of the key strategies in the LPL is the triple mid lane ban. So if you triple mid lane ban from red side, it prioritizes or forces the other team to pick a mid laner in early rotation, just because they're afraid of getting pinched, and then you are guaranteed the counter pick on mid lane. We saw that, Icon did get his choice of it. He went for the Talia, I think, this time around. And the thing is if you leave Rise open for RNG, you know that they're going to take that pick, and that can set a trap for them, because if they don't ban the Cassiopeia, which they typically don't, Icon is the type of player who has enough swagger to say, I can take the Cass into the Rise, and I can beat Xiaohu if my jungler doesn't, mess up his EQ flash drag and throw away the early lane phase.
And that's who we thought we were going to be looking towards the entire series. Icon in the mid lane, we thought he was going to pick up Cassiopeia, so I went towards Talia, still okay with that. Didn't work out against RNG, who brought in MLXG as well as Sutai into this match. And now we know that RNG have been playing around with their roster. We saw lots of AD carries playing at the start of the split. Uzi's back in, seems to be comfortable setting back into that role. And lots of talks about how Casa had to spend some time to adapt to how the team played and, to mesh well with them. He's already been able to do that. But they're still swapping in and out. And quite frankly, in this match with MLXG stepping in, with Sutai stepping in, RNG still looked perfectly fine.
But it also looked like a different style. When Karsa is on the roster, it's all about Uzi. Everything is happening in the bottom lane. MLXG almost didn't even touch that bot lane until it was all 5 members of RNG teleporting or roaming down into that lane. It was the priority of the mid lane, bouncing in between and giving safety to the top lane. So it may be that RNG are actually finally diversifying themselves and getting that blank peanut mixture.
And where do we start to move towards as we head towards playoffs and in the future internationals? Because yes, in the LPL you can have multiple subs. Here you go. I see you drop your pen.
I drop my pen.
You can take mine for now. But in the LPL, yes, you can have multiple subs. However, as you move towards internationals, most international tournaments only allow you to bring 1. So where do RNG end up here? Because they're swapping around top lane, they're swapping around jungle. It's probably going to be Uzi. He's not going to need a sub as an AD carry. But which one of them actually gets that substitute spot?
Personally, I think it's going to be the top lane. Clement and I said this at the very beginning. MLXG and Karsa are too competitive to say, this will be a swapping, we're going to run a 2 jungle system. It'll completely change the dynamic of the team and our strategies. And yeah, you can kind of see it against OMG. But against the top teams, RNG are playing Karsa and they're playing Let Me. And occasionally they'll bring in Sutai. It's not like against EDG, against Invictus Gaming, that they're swapping between their jungler. No, they're swapping between their top laner. And that's what I expect to see the standard when push comes to shove for Royal Never Give Up.
Well, we'll have to see what they do decide to do later on in the season. For now, though, we're going to get into game number 2 between OMG and RNG.
Game 2 is upon us. RNG and OMG. And after that game 1, it feels good. It warms my heart to see Xiang laughing and smiling on stage with his team and still maintaining a good attitude, because if that were me and that were a solo queue game, my keyboard would be outside of the window, because that was not an easy game to lose.
People take, or at least Tilt comes out in different ways. Me, I laugh. It's laughing Tilt.
Have a chuckle. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like a little bit crazy, or at least you look crazy.
Yeah.
But what can you do after the game? One, it's still a best of 3, so OMG still feels like they have a few more bullets to have in their gun, in their arsenal. That's fine for them. Especially, I would say one thing that they should change from themselves. One thing I would love to see them change. I'd like to see, now that they've chosen red side for themselves, to have a Shen priority. Xiang's a great Shen, and OMG is a great Shen utilizing team. They can put it in the bottom side of the map, but I would like to see him in the top side, because I didn't appreciate how he was able to utilize his own pressure, or at least how the team played towards the Renekton top side, because it felt like a very easy-to-read gank in the top side of the map, and he fell to it.
We saw World 6 more prioritize that mid lane, and that's something that we also have to consider, that OMG aren't subbing out their junglers here. This is the 4th game in a row that we're seeing World 6 show up as the jungler for this squad. Perhaps they might finally have settled down and chosen who it could be?
Yep, most consistency we've seen in their jungle position. In any kind of failure, if they've lost a game, they move towards Fire Lolly or Jiako. This time around, keeping World 6, have a lot of confidence underneath them.
That said, we are now in picks and bans for this game 2 between RNG and OMG. And with such a swift game 1, we'll have to see if OMG can perhaps even improve their time in this game 2. Now we've got, again, the Tom Kench being banned away by OMG, the change-up Camille being banned away first round, whereas it looks like RNG running the exact same 3 bans as game 1.
On the Sejuani as well, so now that means 3 junglers off the map. Wonder what MLXG goes towards. He usually goes towards the Jax, so it feels like for himself, he's got quite a large champion pools. The Camille is a jungle ban towards MLXG. Sejuani is a jungle ban towards him, of course, as well. So MLXG at this point in time could go towards skirmishing junglers like the Kazakhs and like the Jax that I've mentioned before.
That said, we now see the likes of Sion locked in. First rotation blue pick for RNG. That could go Zatai, that could go Xiaohu.
Yep, so that's a true flex there. I would expect Xiaohu to pick it up for himself, which means the Galio, I still want to see that out of OMG. Pick yourself up the Galio, so if you're going towards the mid lane, it's Galio versus Sion.
Now, Xayah is the answer from Chelly. They were giving that Galio the hover. We know that the likes of that Sion can be flexed. RNG could well find themselves in a composition with both of the champions. The World 6 could be prioritized here.
You gotta wonder here. OMG have the opportunity to pick up a very powerful bottom lane in the Xayah Rakan, which has been taking names recently with how more volatile the bottom side of the map has been. But that means the Jarvan I'm surprised about, because I still would love to see a Kazakhs, even an early Rek'Sai pressure to impact mid lane. That would be nice for me. The Galio is something that I would love to see as well. Picking up Jarvan, that's just saying World 6 has found comfort in the champion, and they're picking it up to have more counter picks going into the later options.
Already now we can see the response from the likes of RNG. Some very bright lights as Uzi focuses on his screen to lock in the likes of that Ezreal. And already RNG, they could just be going straight towards that bottom lane again.
Yeah, so the Shen being lost to OMG is immediately a hit. They can utilize the Shen towards the top lane or the support once again. So the Sion is still up and available for both lanes. It doesn't really change where that priority is going. And the Ezreal is great into the Xayah just because of the early range. Sure, once you picked up the tier and Xayah gets a little bit more AD underneath herself, then she can start skirmishing with you, but now you have skirmish within the laning phase, or at least the poke in the laning phase.
And it looks as though OMG's Gambit has paid off. They still end up with Xayah Rakan, even though not side by side, as Jarvan was picked in between. That said, that Galio that you hovered over earlier could potentially receive a ban here.
I wonder. OMG wouldn't want to ban it just because they have first pick going into the second phase. And having such a strong skirmishing bottom side of the map, it's skirmish versus poke. They should just start banning out supports that do well into the Xayah Rakan. For me, that sounds like Braum. Ban out the Braum so you have a little bit more of a cleaner engage.
That's a Nocturne banned away from MLXG. You gotta have a chuckle at that from the Nocturne that was played last year in the summer split by this same team. as that's the Galio ban that we were talking about now taken away from OMG. So already their ability to play towards their more meta composition for this team is being pushed at by RNG, forcing them away to something a bit off meta.
Yeah, and Icon is a good Ryze player as well, so this is just RNG focusing down the mid lane. Ban out Galio, I would say either ban out the Ryze or the Cassiopeia. Icon's done well on both champions, and you just want to find him to be in a more poor matchup, especially since Sion could just be that mid laner.
Now we are seeing OMG instead focus the jungle of MLXG, Kha'Zix to follow that Nocturne. So MLXG's pool being pressured just a bit here. Still, he's got plenty of champions that he can take into this. Rek'Sai could still be a pick. Vladimir now banned away.
So for them, they're just looking at recency's sake. Two of the most recent champions that Icon has played that went up against LGD was the Vladimir and was the Galio. So he's going to have to dig into something that he hasn't played onto stage, or at least very recently.
Now we could be seeing the Gnar, and it is in fact lock in. So OMG Red Side still saving that counter pick. They want to see what Xiaohu brings in the mid lane so that Icon can get the counter.
And that's the straight counter pick top lane getting soft, I would say, pushed around. Gnar's a safe laner, and sure he does well into Sion, sure he does well into the Shen, but he has to expect that he doesn't exactly know what that top lane is just yet.
Oh wow, Xin Zhao locked in by MLXG. That's new.
Yeah, and the Ryze in as well, so RNG's round out their composition. The Xin Zhao was first picked by Fire Lolly, so that's what's incredible, that they're once again going up and picking another unique pick that has been picked by their enemy team.
That is going to be the first time that we see MLXG play Xin Zhao this year, let alone RNG in general, including Karsa. So now we get the counter pick from Icon. Azir could be the answer in the mid lane. It will be locked in, but that said, Raz, what is this composition from RNG?
That's just straight skirmish, my friend. That's just mid lane jungle from RNG will smack you. I want to see if it's a press the attack Xin Zhao. Not a lot of other ones. Just allows him to walk up to the enemy jungle, which has been an LXG special, and just find World 6. So World 6 does have to be afraid early on if there is a level 3 cheese as his buff. If I'm World 6, you take 2 buffs early, or at least literally go blue buff to red buff so you don't get cheesed early on, and you can start to just maybe perhaps take a few of his own camps and play safe.
Do my eyes deceive me? That Sion went to Xiaohu in the mid lane. Ryze went top. The old switcheroo, the long con from RNG.
That's awesome.
We have just been bamboozled, Raz.
Yes, we have. Almost forgot about the fact that Ryze has been picked top lane globally and in domestically. Specifically, Flunder has gone towards Ryze top far more often in the league.
This is... who's he? I think he's drinking some water there, but making a bit of a silly face on stage as he gets here into this game too. Ever the bane of OMG. And this time, it is going to be even more so with a Xin Zhao now locked in. And then Sion in the mid lane, Ryze top lane. This is the least conventional composition you can expect out of RNG. And what way to add salt to the wound when you look at OMG, a team that struggles and tries to play off-meta comps and fails so spectacularly to now be facing an off-meta comp.
Yep, and it's RNG that has the ability to go towards these compositions, because when it goes towards the mid game and late game, they close it out well. They know how to utilize it. And honestly, Ryze and Sion are still meta champions, not in which they've sent it. So once they get into the mid lane, they can side switch. So here's what I look towards immediately. Sure, these are new champions for their players, but this is a very familiar style of having just outright priority within the lane. Ryze is a great matchup into the Gnar. There are going to be moments in which, of course, if Gnar procs off his hyper procs, of course he's going to be able to chase you down. But if he's in mini Gnar, he can look up towards you and skirmish you.
We're downloaded onto the Rift for Game 2 between RNG and OMG. Okay, that was only 2 that time. That's they're still struggling with the count, but finally they're getting towards it. Now game 2 between RNG and I see, they were muted.
Yeah, they were definitely muted.
It muted him.
They definitely were muted. It was a little bit suspect when they were cut off so quickly.
I just thought it was perfect coordination that time. Like he went around the crowd to everyone and was, are you an RNG fan? Excellent. We're only going to do 2 chants this time. But instead, no, they just muted him. The classic. All right, getting on to the Rift. Defensive lines. Looks like we're going to be seeing bottom side jungle start from RNG. Red buff start from World 6.
What I like here is that Nar's gone towards fleet footwork to keep himself topped up within the lane. He recognizes it's going to be a tough time, especially since the Rise usually goes towards Spellbook. Means he can pick up an offensive summoner, doesn't have to go towards the teleport. So you're going up against a heal flash Rise that will walk up to you, especially just to kind of get the E, Q, walk up to you, get the snare down. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for him.
Already Shadow Dash. 5 looks for some damage and is immediately punished by RNG. Was it not in between games or just before game 1 that we heard from 5 saying, I just want to sit back and have a regular laning phase without too much trouble? And
yeah.
He starts it off with some harass at level 1. No chill.
I just feel like it's just the long con. Last game was a skirmishing competition. This game is the same. 5, what I am surprised of, has gone towards Ignite Flash while having Spellbook. Would rather see Ignite Exhaust or just something more offensive within lane, just because he has the extra distance that he can cover with his E so he doesn't get caught out with Chelly nearby. So perhaps maybe he is going safe.
Very well could be. Changing things up just a little bit later. That said, MLXG rocking that awesome Xin Zhao short step, the stagger step, as he makes his way around the map. He's thinking of collapsing onto Icon, though World 6 is just on the other side of the river. Yeah,
MLXG is incredibly mad at the meta that the fact that Zombie Ward caught him out. So good early ward from Icon turns into Zombie Ward and means that MLXG's mid lane gank doesn't come out through.
Trade-off, of course, World 6 will get to take the Raptor camp away from MLXG, who already did the other thing, but the other camp, now MLXG, he's thinking of going in. Xiaohu lands this slow, but a quick dash away gets Icon to safety.
Sure, Icon comes out well, but now he got chunked in his own mana department to get the escape off. So he's going up against a really poor matchup. This is really strong for Xiaohu. Can just constantly poke him out with his E, and now he doesn't have that much mana just because the gank came through from MLXG.
That means that MLXG will get the chance to finish off his Raptors and then head on down towards that Krug camp as Zatai trades with Xion. That's exactly what you were talking about. 5 is such low health. Ming actually has Ignite here, though Chelly is holding on to heal.
I wonder how that happened. That would only happen if 5 went in for a W and got taunted immediately and just gotten traded out. So 5 should play this fairly safe, just because Ming should hold his taunt for whenever 5 does try and aggress in the matchup.
That said, the lane balances back out. Uzi still, as ever, 4 CS ahead, better CS than his opponent. He has the highest CS differential at 15 in the entire league at 21.27. We saw him hit that in the previous game, so still adding to those stats. And now 5 back at half health. Has to play with fire, sort of kiting and dancing around a little bit. Without the likes of that shield, that's going to make going in more difficult.
Yeah, the secret to Uzi's success, of course, is not only skill, but the fact that he always picks himself good matchups. He talked about it in the interview, that he always loves the 2v2 combination. Usually it's the Varus pick, because Varus is so strong within the lane. This time goes towards Ezreal, which has poke in this specific matchup. But remember, just because he picked it into the Xayah, which has very low range, picking it into Xayah Rakan adds more safety. They can walk up and just challenge both Shen and Uzi, so Uzi has to watch out here.
MLXG, though, he is going to challenge these Raptors on respawn. It seems like we just missed some skirmishing down in the bottom lane as Uzi did take a bit of damage, as did 5, though nothing did come of it. And as a result, MLXG will get himself back onto the map with his own completed Skirmisher's Saber, that challenging smite to match that of World 6. So this game completely different from Game 1. Much more relaxed and slow from the two, as Xiaohu just being Scion.
There's just a lot of tension in the air. Just because MLXG and Xiaohu, their mentality is to just focus on the mid lane. That's just the most important part of the map. MLXG's been trying to find ganks there, trying to put down vision, control ward top side of mid lane, just to allow him to protect the bubble in which is Xiaohu being able to constantly punish Icon. If that continues forward, then that's a free lane just because Icon has to constantly base, which means he loses out CS. He's already nearly 20 CS down. Sure, he's
Yeah.
going to be able to pick up this wave coming through, but if this continues on, he's going to be so far behind in the
Now
match.
Xiaohu's level 6. He pushed in mid and is now racing bottom. The charge. You can see Xiong racing away from mid lane. Flash, ignite. Shelly out of position, goes low. First blood, Uzi.
Well, that was easy. Shelly taking a poor skirmish, it looks like, and Xiaohu being in the lane, pushing up the wave, meant he could look for that skirmish.
Shadow Dash, oh, just misses 5. MLXG decides to back into the river, pinging now onto Icon, who is still only level 5. Going 1v2 potentially, but decides to turn it around. Xiong with the kill on World 6, managing to drop down Zatai.
Yep, turns out to be a gank. Apparently didn't even use flash as well, so Zatai keeps his flash, uses his heal. Wonder what that's gonna, how that happened. We'll see the replay surely.
And still, we're seeing RNG just plain and simple out macroing the likes of OMG with their rotation bottom. Though Zatai, ever the split pusher, does find himself just a bit overextended.
Here it is.
Sees, oh, I don't think he does see him. And that's the knock-up. Slowed, Realm Warp, uses heal to try to stall it out. Oh, and then walks out of it.
Yep. He thought he had the timing properly, that
You
he
hate
could get
to
to
see
the
that
edge of
happen.
it.
Yeah.
Really, really, really sucks.
So close, but still, he's got some time to get himself back into this, as he is doing rather well in the lane against Xiong, who did go Merc Treads first.
But that's something you would expect World 6 to do a little bit more often. He needs to I would say, upset these side lanes, look to get Xiong ahead, look to get the bottom lane ahead, just so the mid lane doesn't turn out to be such a stump. Because it's going to be tough for Icon, but as long as Xiong can utilize his early advantage to maybe put more control wards in the river and allow Icon some safety, he'll be all right for it.
Ooh, Icon dashing onto Xiao, who knows he's got his jungler right there behind him, but still has to be careful, because Xiao hurts.
Yeah, Icon thought he either thought he had enough mana for ulti to set up for that gank, or he thought he could just move in to push Sion out of lane. Both were not true.
Oh, Ming still just bullying out the likes of Chelly Aftershock, as 5 had to back up and get vision on the blue buff. It seems like every time OMG look for a play, they are unable to find it. That was auspicious, but still just zoning away the likes of OMG's bottom lane.
Would have been an isolated hit onto Xayah as well. Would have done a lot of damage onto her. So before 5 even found himself in the lane, you would have had a very chunked out Chelly. So right now RNG are trying to utilize whatever they can within the lane to put Chelly and 5 behind.
Already RNG controlling the river almost completely. A single defensive ward from Xiong on the top half of the map. Spots out MLXG as Ming now trades with 5. 5 actually going a bit too far forward with the grand entrance. Uzi's still there. Arcane Shift, Cataclysm, he's still not got that flash, but stand united while side by side to further protect his AD carry.
Yeah, what was going to be awkward there is you didn't see where Sion was. He was moving towards the fight. And as well, Jarvan just didn't have mana. So he was getting skittish. He didn't know if it was a good fight to have prolonged. So he just moved out.
Just playing it safe for now. It is only 1,000 gold advantage for RNG. And I'm sure OMG do not want that gold advantage to grow any further, as RNG already showing they are more than capable of snowballing a lead. Still, though, we're seeing OMG playing a much safer game too, but they aren't taking any risks yet. They aren't trying to break this game open.
Yeah, I would say that's a pat on the back to World 6. World 6 has been playing out this early game pretty well. Gank towards top lane to get Xiong ahead in that matchup, and then move towards the bottom lane. And sure, it didn't turn into anything, but that's just real pressure to allow Chelly and 5 to be able to move in the lane for himself. So Ming doesn't have flash because of that, and Uzi had to play a little bit farther back. So real pressure coming out of World 6 to allow Icon a little bit more breathing room here.
You can see even Xiong is now benefiting from the pressure that Zatai received earlier. Up to 6 CS ahead and keeping the wave zoned in, as Zatai is forced to back away all the way from that tier 1 into the jungle, as he really feels that unsafe. Meanwhile, Infernal Dragon has been started off by MLXG, and there is no vision from OMG that sees this happening.
Yeah, there's no way for Chelly and 5 to extend out of the lanes to get the wards down. And remember, MLXG has built-in sustain with his Xin Zhao, so he's going to be able to get topped up immediately off of that.
Finally, World 6 makes his way over there, but that Infernal Dragon is already long dead. And as we get towards this 11-minute mark, Still 1,000 gold advantage for RNG as they're just taking it nice and slow. But Xiaohu is just going to yell at Icon with that comment.
Yeah, he needs to base now because he's within range of, he's in within kill range. If Sion gets one E off and turns that into an ultimate, then Icon's dead.
Still very knowledgeable of that range in the mid lane, just backs out of range of the shout. Continues to catch wave after wave. This is a dangerous game that Xiaohu is playing. Walks under the turret, thinking about it. Already you can see Ming is there, and Icon finally calls chicken and backs away.
Yeah, charging up his shield, just saying that I still have flash. I can get the damage off. So Icon needed to back away, and look how much minions he's about to lose. Sure, this is a cannon wave, so he's not going to lose too much. He's
proxying between the mid tier 1 and tier 2 Raz. You can't just do that.
Except he can.
And it seems like there's nothing OMG can do. They might be collapsing on Shelly here. 5 is there. As Xiaohu simply rotates over. There are still 4 members of RNG in the area.
Yep, he's just being annoying. Look at how much time he's wasting from Shelly and 5, and the minions that are crashing to the bottom lane. So 5 loses out in a bit of experience just because he's pushing them away.
This is spillover without any kills. Xiaohu returns back to the mid lane. World 6 wastes his time clearing out this vision. Though we haven't seen anything spectacular from the Xin Zhao just yet, MLXG is just putting himself in the right place at the right time in case a fight were to break out.
Yeah, and it's good on OMG to never pick those fights because Xin Zhao being picked out here means that he's just saying, if there's ever a 2v2 skirmish, I'm going to win 100% with the Red Smite, with the warriors that he's already built up for himself, of course with Press the Attack. So there's no way you win that 2v2 mid. There's no way you win a 3v3 bottom side of the map. So World 6 is trying to just sneak around, clearing out his own, the enemy wards on his own camps so he can find sneak ganks.
Now there are double summoners available to this bottom lane. MLXG still just putting himself in the right place. Not going to make anything happen though, as they're just controlling the river, controlling the lane. 27 CS lead for Uzi, another 15 for Xiaohu. They really want to make something happen here.
It's going to be hard just because Ming doesn't have his flash. He's going to have it soon, but it won't be available for MLXG for the top flash.
Uzi acting as human bait, steps in, and look at how far 5 dashes to safety. True Shot Barrage easily sidestep, but Xiaohu is here to finish the job. Who's the target going to be? He starts charging. Flash is going to allow 5 to miss. Even Ming coming in. The true submarine. Teleport even being used by Zatai to join on this fight. As they could be trying to break this down. Zatai left alone, and he kills 5 before even getting knocked up. They managed to dive and lock down Xiang, who split from his team. And still, RNG are just outplaying OMG.
They're just testing OMG at every time, and OMG's failing.
Icon steps forward, the flash, he's running away, heal is used, but Red Buff is going to finish it off. MLXG with another kill, 4 kills to 1 right now for RNG, and they've already finished off the bottom tier 1.
And they're still moving forward. Look at Sion's position here.
Zoning away the likes of World 6, he's forced to take the standard to safety, and now it's not 1, but 2 turrets, Raz. As RNG, they just wait for the clock to strike midnight before breaking apart OMG's bottom lane.
They're just checking to see how much it takes for OMG to finally call it quits. The first step was say, oh, you know what? We're going to try and zone you off the tower. You're going to lose the minion waves. Actually, 2 people decided to stay underneath the tower. You lose a lot here. There's no reason for 5 to go in for this fight. Ming didn't have his flash, but he found a free fight for himself. And OMG and Chelly, they move away. Naturally so, because Xiaohu is coming in for the gank. They did a good enough job at backing away. They're waiting for the TP coming in from Xiang. They're waiting for Azir. But Xiang's TP, he gets completely cut off from his team, so he's going to die easily. So my biggest criticism for Xiang is that when he TP through, TP at the second tower unless if Icon is there with you so they can push in and help.
And still the extended play as the tier 1 ends up being taken. Uzi follows up for big damage onto Icon. Flash on flash on flash. As Red Buff Tick is going to get MLXG that final kill there. Still though, the tier 2 has been taken. Uzi pushing bottom, finishing off his Iceborne Gauntlet. Already though, RNG are prepped to look for the mid lane though. It appears OMG might try something top.
Yeah, they're going to have to, because with the Banshees, or at least the Banner of Command that is being picked up by Xiaohu, they could easily look towards just setting up a war in the mid lane. In fact, they already are. So OMG are already at a bad position. They have to back. They tried to go for an offensive move, but it was far too late.
And still they are slower than RMG, who respond just a little bit later. Shadow Dash is buffered out of by World 6. He's able to escape, but the mid-tier 1 has been broken. Recall completed by Xiang, and Zitai is able to pull back, keep himself alive, and keep his top tier 1 standing.
One interview that was made, it was a global interview, was Tahuni. He talked about how Sion, broken champ mid lane, you pick the champion, you get Banner of Command, you get 2 mid lane turrets pretty free. RNG got the first one, and they're trying to go for second.
Yeah, they're looking right now for Xiaohu to try to get the kill, but like you said, that Sion's so tanky. He's able to simply flash and walk away while Ming and Uzi fire shots across the bow of OMG.
Seal's rough for OMG. Trying to find any bit of skirmish, but whoever's on the front line, it's always Xiaohu. It's always the Sion. Takes a long time to burn him down, and by the time they get to about 50% HP, the rest of RNG starts crashing.
And look at this. Zitai has been working on this tier 1 top the entire time. Xiang with his recall headed bottom to try to split push on the other side of the map without a teleport. It seems like OMG are just sacrificing parts of the map that they know they can't compete in.
Yeah, at this point in time, OMG are just conceding more and more parts of the map. It's going to hurt. When you press tab, they're going to have to concede so much more because that's a static shift MLXG. We've seen this in Korean solo queue because there are 2 builds. Black Cleaver into tank, or the crit build coming out of Dizhen Zhao. He's going to be able to just walk up to the front line, whoever it is, if it's World 6, if it's Xiang, and blow them up really early on and disregard the backline damage through his ulti. So take a look at him in later on team fights, because he's able to get this constant auto attacks. If he's able to kind of keep up his ulti for as long as possible, that's the most, or at least the best efficiency you can get out of the Dizhen Zhao. But it's very fragile. So if you mess up, you can't get those autos in the team fights, your ulti gets kind of shut down.
Absolutely.
Then suddenly
playing
RNG,
around that crescent sweep for the true vulnerability.
Exactly. They fall through just because they haven't been getting in the autos. So we'll see in these team fights if they can get it going for themselves.
Still, though, 17.5 minutes in, we're at a 6,500 gold advantage for RNG. Like you said, Raz, OMG might open tab and say, oh no, it's going to be a crit Xin Zhao, it's a Banner of Command, Sion. They can't see the gold like we do. They don't know that RNG are actually this massive, though surely they can see the items, as it is 700 gold in the top lane, 1,000 gold in the jungle, even more elsewhere, and that gold is set to increase as 5 is ignited in his own jungle, and red buff is denied by RNG.
Yep, damage is certainly one thing they can see. They can see the fact that they're losing out in just about every lane, the fact that Xiang won't be able to skirmish. World 6, if he ever finds a fight or a gank, RNG will collapse on him, and Icon is fairly useless at this point in time.
We now have knockups being traded. Tank versus tank. What would normally be top lane is now top versus mid, though Xiang drops into mini just in time to get some damage. Rift Herald meanwhile being used on the other side of the map, as finally Xiaohu just calls it and splits away to safety while his team breaks a top tier 2.
Yeah.
Did that recall just get... It did. That one single minion auto followed him from the tier 2, which he took, by the way, all the way across to the other side of the map. Oh, sorry, they got that earlier. Never mind.
Excellent.
I was giving even more to RNG at this point. But 19 minutes in, this is not as big a gold lead as game 1, but still such a mountain for OMG to climb.
Yeah, it really is. At this point in time, if you're OMG, I talked about it last game of looking at your win conditions if you're that far behind and trying to turtle. But what makes this one difficult is that OMG have lost so much of it. At this point in time, you would usually look towards Nar and saying whoever is on split push duty, you can take the Sion, you can take the Rise, but if he isn't flashing or jumping in to cancel out Sion ulti to get out of those scenarios, and he certainly cannot take the Rise at this point in time, then he's just sitting underneath his own tower. So that's one strength that OMG could have, but don't have, and so they really are kind of scraping for options here.
They certainly are. RNG have already got their eyes set on the Baron. 3 members on that top side of the map. Make that 4 as MLXG shows up. Zitai now with his teleport in the bottom lane means Xiang has got to join up with his team. He's actually very close to Mega.
Yeah, he needs to join up because they have to respect the vision control coming out of RNG. Before the Baron popped up, they already have 2 control wards in the river, completely clearing out OMG's vision of this Baron at all, so they're forced to respect the burn damage coming out of RNG. So right now, OMG, they have to be playing the game that RNG is trying to set.
So far, OMG are keeping pace If only by a little, it's still something that they can try to keep up with for themselves. Because 21 minutes in, Xiaohu now using that 1-3-1 while the 3-man squad invades into the jungle 5, trying to litter this jungle with vision. Ming, with the flash, decides not to overextend. Instead, just buys time for Xiaohu to push all the way up top, while Zatai does the same bottom.
And remember here, this is 8.4, so MLXG, even though he is ahead of the pace, he's not swapping to red trinket. So he's keeping up his invisible wards, just so when they do walk into the red side jungle and push OMG off, they have wards that OMG cannot clear.
We actually see a 2-man Baron going on right now. Make that 3 as Uzi joins in. Xiaohu zoning OMG away from the back. Still just being an absolute nuisance. Finally, Chelly is going to show up. The controller will spot Uzi attacking as Baron is backed away from RNG. Looking for an opening, forcing OMG to respond. Xiang actually ulting onto Zatai down here in the bottom lane. Runs out of Mega just in time. Shields on shields means Zatai is able to leap away. Zhonya's are not.
Yeah, he's getting stronger. He's getting stronger. He's gotten a few resistances underneath him. So that's the Spectral's Cowl and, of course, the armor item. So Xiang right now can go toe-to-toe with whoever kind of meets him. It's going to take a little bit longer if it's Xiaohu. But if Xiaohu does go down to the bottom side of the map, it's not too effective just because if you use Banner of Command, Gnar can clear that out. So right now, Xiang is turning into, I would say, a winning point for OMG on the map.
And we do see Teleport actually being used by 5 to get back out onto the map. MLXG with his recall did finish off Ninja Tabby for some armor. Now Zatai and MLXG might be trying to catch up to Xiang. He's playing it so safe. Rise just lost a trade with me. He has no reason to step up onto me again unless the jungler is here.
Yep, definitely getting suspicious. Don't have any wards to catch out Xinjia on the bottom side of the map. But 5 now being able to press up and place wards. They understand that MLXG could be going for the play.
Finally, we see the reset map as 5 very delicately clears out the vision from RNG. Don't want to aggro that Baron. World 6 even waiting over the wall to allow an avenue for 5 to escape without stepping into the river. And still, OMG, they're holding on. They've still got that mid-tier 2, and RNG are just waiting for the opportunity to step up and clear out this vision, force OMG into making a mistake.
Yeah. OMG did a good thing in preying on RNG's mistake by trying to go bottom side. Technically, I wouldn't say it's a mistake just because they were trying to be cute. You know, MLXG were saying, Xiang's looking confident, maybe I can get a pick on him, and then OMG will be in a really poor position because that's their one winning point. You lose that, and you really can't get anything back. But the fact that OMG played safely on that and cleared out a few more wards means that MLXG, not being on the top side, loses effectiveness of the wards that they placed down.
He's able to finish off another Mountain Dragon. Excuse me, Ocean Dragon. That is, in fact, that element, yes, for RNG. As Xiang backs up all the way to the base, level 12 now just ticked off by MLXG, and still, this game continues. You know, if game 1 was RNG forcing OMG to make mistakes and take bad fights, game 2 is RNG waiting for OMG to make the mistakes themselves.
I think RNG should just go for it. They did a good job earlier on of just pushing into the right side jungle and forcing OMG to take, I would say, respect the red side jungle, which means their river is a little bit more safe. They did a good job in that. If you do that, just start the Baron itself. You have Xiaohu with you who can tank the Baron, and then you can turn it with Rise at a flank. So I would like that. They're already moving Rise now to the mid lane, so that's possible. Uh-oh.
MLXG dashes onto World 6, flash over the wall, as Xiaohu tragically cannot drift around that corner, finds himself hitting that wall. Still though, pings going down onto the Baron. There's no flash on the jungler, and MLXG immediately starts it.
And that's the one ward 5 placed down a little earlier. They see this happening. They can respond.
Ming is going to be tanking up in the front line. Xiaohu finally gets in there. Remember, he has no ult, but Baron's already down to 4,500. RNG, call it quits. Realm Warp, sending 2 into the back line. They're going to get Xiaohu in there along with Zatai. They've locked down on the 5, and they have killed him. Still, they chase further forward. Slow flash over the wall is denied, and the blast cone. World 6 is able to escape.
Yeah, I was a little bit afraid for World 6 popping right up in the air, but that's the thing. It was hard for RNG to force the fight. Xiaohu used his ultimate a little earlier on, so it was going to be a little bit difficult for him. The one person falling is 5, though, and that's their one way for OMG to engage.
Zatai is going 1 versus 2 right now and actually winning the trade. Uzi zoned out of the back by Icon and his Sand Soldiers. Heal will keep the carries topped up, though True Shot Barrage tries to reset that damage, and RNG decide this is a bit too close for comfort. They're going to complete their recalls and reset the map.
Good on OMG to also have mid lane pressure, so even though Icon and World 6 got chunked out by Uzi's ulti, they still didn't feel comfortable playing that game, that long con in the river. So good on them to recognize that, respect OMG's mid lane pressure, and a back out.
That said, the Spellbinder has been finished off by Zatai. We saw Xiaohu with that item in the previous game. And I apologize for getting the name wrong, Raz. That was pointed out to me during the break. But still, RNG, they go right back to the exact same spot and try to make the same play happen again.
This is where it's a little bit dicey for Xiang now if he sits in side lane with the Rise, just because being able to bullet out those abilities right now, it's on the 11th stack, get to the 100th stack, and you know, it's going to be a little bit harder to take proper trades, especially if you're a mini-Gnar.
Just trading wards, one after another. And even with his team nearby, World 6 does not feel safe clearing out this Vision. 5 already had been picked off once.
Yeah, RNG have a lot of ways to start the fight. Xiaohu now has his ultimate. They can utilize MLXG just being hot. Okay.
Well, that was 1 second he was there, the next second he was gone. 5 just got annihilated. Now Baron is being started off by RNG. Banner Cannon Minion pushing up in that top lane. There's nobody there to clear it. Baron's already down to half health. Here comes the rest of OMG. World 6, this is going to be the steal of the century. Realm Warp to get 4 members, and the Realm Warp is in fact denied. Cancelled, I believe, as RNG will now turn and look to finish this off. Still Xiaohu is in the front line, MLXG in the front. Xiaohu eating some damage, knockout, teleport to get in. Cataclysm as Xiang goes forward, but everyone is out. They finished off MLXG, True Shot Barrage trades it back over. Xiang with the 3-man stun, Xiaohu in the pit. Raz, I cannot believe it, but OMG, they might just be able to win this. Shelly goes forward, but it's too far, and he goes down despite a triple kill.
3 for 2, and OMG come up big. Sure, RNG are going to be the ones that stay on the map for longer and try and get anything off of that. But I don't understand how Xiaohu got chunked out that early on. He was really facing a lot of damage to begin with. It was a good call from RNG to ditch the Baron, but then they didn't take the ride on Ryze's ultimate. So yeah, he's just getting chunked out. Xiaohu taking a lot of damage before he's anywhere near useful in that. So at this point in time, RNG all have to back away because they are a fragile composition if you don't have the Scion. And Xiang comes up big.
Huge play from the likes of Xiang, who was able to keep himself even in lane. Shelly stepping forward to get even more. And at the very least, get OMG back on the board. What was a 7, nearly 8,000 gold advantage is only about 6,000 for the likes of RNG when a trade is all said and done. Still, though, RNG are maintaining this constant pressure around the Baron. And you know, we were joking about it a little bit during Game 1. It's the mid-game macro decision-making from RNG that has been one of their biggest weaknesses recently. OMG seems to have found themselves right into a comfy crevice that RNG just cannot get them out of.
Yeah, OMG have been a team that have been trying to go back to their team fighting days. That's been something that they've had a strength when they've had SMLZ on the team, and something they've tried to come back to. So it makes sense that OMG is finding any bit of success against teams within a game or even finding victories against LGD, it's based off of that team fight.
Xiaohu still charging the full-on slam as he trades now with Xiang, who has got a plethora of armor. That Warden's Mail doing quite a bit to reduce the damage of that Scion, not to mention the adaptive helm, providing even more resistances. Uzi's actually on that side of the map, might be set to finish off the next dragon as it spawns in Ocean. That does give a window of opportunity for OMG to try getting some vision around the Baron.
It's a double Ocean here, so if Uzi gets it for himself, playing around Baron is a little easier. Remember now that OMG have been trying to play towards their own bit of a sustained game. World 6 has Warmogs himself, so they play around the Baron skirmishes and fight back and forth. If he gets chunked out by placing a ward, he can back away and heal up fully with his Warmogs and one Ocean Dragon. Now RNG have 2 underneath them, so they can play that as well.
Xiaohu.
Where's he going?
He's going into the red pit, Raz. Might be collapsing, pinging actually up towards the top lane. He's looking for Icon, who dashes away. Realm Warp to get him in there. Now Xiaohu has been spotted. He's swept over the wall, and still the flash to follow up. The submarine as Ming shows up. MLXG finally joins the fight. And this is what RNG have been looking for this entire time. Zatai looking to finish off. World 6 does not have the range. Still, though, that's Icon and Shelly dead.
Yeah, 2 of the major carries, which mean RNG are going to be on the Baron buff. OMG have no way to look for this. They're going to try. Like, they should at least try for a desperate Baron steal. But RNG should be ready for it. They've seen these time and time again.
Immediately, MLXG goes in. Xiaohu zoning World 6 away from the far side as Uzi, Ming, and MLXG try to finish it off. Xiang, he's got Mega. He's got his ultimate. Dash from World 6 to get over the wall, and Xiang is already being kited out by Uzi, who's single-handedly chasing them away along with the likes of Zatai. Double-handedly, I suppose, and now they turn back onto the Baron to finish the job they started.
Yep, just on it so the Baron doesn't lose HP, or at least gain HP, regen fully, while they were going for the chase down. So they get Baron for themselves. Now coming back onto the map. Good plays from RNG as a whole.
Oh, and that's the Spellbinder. Zatai just walks up towards him and F-smashes.
Icon played this well considering the position he was in. Even utilizing Shen ulti to get the taunt off when it does come through. So strong play, strong setup from RNG as a whole. But mechanically, at least Icon played that as well as you could.
And that said, OMG now find themselves up against a double banner team with Baron for 3 minutes. And while there aren't any teleports ready for RNG, it is going to be quite difficult for OMG to defend against a siege of this magnitude.
That's why they need Xiang on a side lane, even if there's a 5-man siege mid lane. If they put him towards the mid lane and try and defend, RNG can just hold position there for however long they want while having a banner on the bottom side of the map. So right now they're in a very comfortable spot, RNG.
You see OMG sending 4 members top, potentially looking for an overextended Zatai, but not finding him. Raz, we haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure we're about to. What do you call a bannered Baron minion? Because there are so many different names variations. There's the Bannon, there's Thomas the Tank.
Well, I'm trying to be creative for a little bit, and I tried Commander Minion, but I didn't like it. Thought people came up with much more creative names.
Oh, it actually aggroes onto World 6 and walks into turret range. I believe it's taking aggro right now and will go down despite Ming trying to save it. Minor mistake from the likes of RNG to give that up, though they still break the tier 2. Xiaohu still sitting on his own banner. Finally, he uses it. And, catches Xiang mid-air, who still holds on to his ultimate. Slam for the stun. As Ming steps forward, manages to pin it up against the wall. They're doing everything they have to take the fight, and MLXG goes in, forces the issue. He goes low, but he's got the GA Uzi on the side, gets away from Icon, who looks for an Emperor's Divide, is not enough. As World 6 goes down, GA is going to get MLXG back up. They dive into the turrets and are set to finish off this game as Chelly, the sole survivor, along with 5, will fall. And now the inhibs are being broken.
Way too many frontliners on the side of RNG, so even though OMG played it well initially to get the damage on the Xiaohu, way too damn tanky. He ain't gonna fall.
Absolutely is not. 5 on the fountain, sidestepping as best he can as OMG once again find themselves suffering a defeat at the hands of Uzi, ever the bane of OMG. 2-0, the victory for Royal Never Give Up.
It was a quick series in Chengdu. At least the RNG fans in the away stadium are going to be happy about that.
Certainly are. As Icon looks absolutely disappointed, supremely disappointed, I think is a good phrase of saying it. There are no words being spoken by the likes of OMG after that series.
Never feels good to get smashed in the series. Sure, they might not have had the highest expectations of taking the win today, but they wanted to be able to have a competitive series. The fact that it didn't turn into that, the fact that RNG were just constantly in their face, making better decisions, having stronger communications in team fights, except for that one Baron fight. Feels bad for OMG.
I mean, we finally saw OMG taking some small baby steps against LGD, of a team that seems to be falling themselves, but still struggling so much to play against these higher tier teams. Though this is now the 4th game in a row they've played with World 6. He seems to be synergizing well with Icon.
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of note to take away from this. The fact that OMG are starting to learn a little bit more in terms of communication with a consistent jungler. I really appreciate that, because at this point in time, having faith that you can get into playoffs, sure, that's still real for OMG, but they need to start in the first step, which is being able to be a legitimate, competitive LPL team.
Once again, they tried to return towards that team fight style that you were talking about, but RNG just showed they were better at those team fights. They were better at finding the picks. They were better about maintaining the vision. And while there was a lack of decisiveness for RNG in that mid-game, you could see that period from about 12 minutes to 26 where it slumps. Once they found the one pick they needed, it was game over.
Yeah, it started with champion select because the early game was flatly in the favor of RNG. Being able to pick up Xin Zhao to complement the Scion meant that that mid lane was not going to get touched.
Oh yeah.
It felt like right from the beginning, OMG had to be creative to get their top lane ahead and bottom lane ahead. Bottom lane did not get ahead, but thankfully they were able to at least get a proper gank in the top side of the map. So I think right then and there, they get something from themselves, but it's just so hard when you find yourself constantly on the back foot just based off pick ban.
Yeah, we did still see a strong performance from the likes of Xiong in the top lane, able to force Xiaohu back, able to get that kill onto Zatai. Even, what was that, the 3-man stun in the fight to set up Chelly for a triple kill. We're still seeing mechanical plays from these players, but something is very clearly missing for them.
Yeah, it's just pure communication and how they utilize their wards, because there was constant teleport wards coming in from the side of RNG. OMG were constantly getting put back from that, and they weren't utilizing some of themselves.
Well, we'll have to see if they can improve. Their next opponents are Rogue Warriors coming up soon, but now it's time for our analyst to close us out for the day.
Thank you, guys. And it seems like Raz thinks that it's just communication that's OMG's problem, but we were talking about it, and it all comes back to the draft again to start, because again, we had an interesting draft between these two teams.
The thing is if you look at OMG's draft, like, and just don't even look at RNG's right now. Just focus all on OMG's. If this was 8.1, you'd be like, yeah, that's great. And again, nothing against Jarvan, but he just has not been the high priority in terms of like the viable jungle pool that has been seen in the LPL. Now that said, Xin Zhao, also not part of that viable pool, but sometimes you just gotta have a little bit of fun, and that's what I felt RNG were having here. This actually our second Xin Zhao of the LPL. The first one was played by OMG's Fire Loli, so World 6 this time around. But I want to talk quickly about RNG's draft phase, and I want to give a lot of credit, not necessarily just to Zatai for flexing the Ryze pick, but to Ming for flexing the Shen pick. Because the thing is Xayah was the priority pick from OMG. So obviously OMG's strategy going in is we need to have a strong bot lane to survive Uzi. Like, we're going to give Chelly and Five a lot of resources, and hopefully they'll be able to keep up. The Xayah Rakan, known in the LPL for having very dominant lane priority pushing power. There's a ban on the Tahm Kench, so they're trying to alleviate safety or remove safety from that lane, so there is some sort of kill pressure. Now, in the LCK, we see that Leona is often the counter pick into Rakan, because if she tags Rakan with the Zenith Blade, she, you know, as he W's back into his AD carry, guess what? You get the 2-for-1 special there, and you have kill pressure on that lane. And Ming is one of the few Leona players in the LPL where he plays the champion off meta. So that was like a very obvious, like, if you're going to pick Xayah into RNG, that's super dangerous, because it showcases that you're probably going to do the Rakan duo, and Ming can counter that out very easily. Instead, he grabs the Shin flex pick, and it's him that they're pretty much hinging on, okay, the Scion is actually slotting into the mid lane, that Shin's not going into the top lane, because it's going to be with the Ryze, and the Shin is going down to the support. So just a really clever draft between those three flex picks.
It almost felt like, again, OMG were waiting to see if Scion was going into the mid lane, because they saved the Azir pick for last. We see what Scion can do to Azirs in the mid lane. I just said, you know, we're just going to put it in the mid lane anyway, because we can run Ryze on the top side of the map. But you were mentioning about that bottom lane duo there with the Xayah Rakan. Didn't quite work out for OMG. They weren't able to stay even against Uzi, and a couple of fights actually started in that bottom lane. And it's kind of where RNG were able to open up the map a little bit more.
Yeah, and again, it's not necessarily a scenario where it's, you know, a 3v2. It's a lot of people that get involved in the back half of this fight, as Chelly and Five just get kind of thrown around, and because it was that last second swap where the Scion is facing into the Azir, Icon had a very tough decision to make. He thought it was going to be the Ryze, unfortunately gets wrong, so Xiao, who has the mid lane priority, it's Xiao who gets the early rotation, and suddenly there are 5 members of RNG in the bot lane.
Yeah, Sion's able to rotate nice and easy. He has that mid lane priority because he can push in Azir underneath that turret quite quickly. Even the teleport's coming up to try to help out in that bottom lane fight.
And the thing is if you look at strength of schedule, RNG are facing 2 matches this week. OMG, which they've now completed, and now they face Snake next. So they're on the road for both of their matches, and RNG haven't really shown anything. We already knew that Xiaohu was going to play a Scion. Ryze has actually been played in the top lane before in the LPL by Flandre. Of course, Zatai is going to be able to play it. He was formerly a mid laner for Invictus Gaming as well as Snake. So they just kind of held all of their cards close to their chest. They knew that OMG was going to be a team that they were going to roll over easily, and now they look towards their next, you know, wounded opponent in Snake, who just lost to Rogue Warriors.
I mean, and Ryze is a big pick coming out from RNG. Yes, I didn't really show anything today with that, because it's Yes, they know now that Tsutai can play in the top side map, but it's always been a big pick for Xiaohu in the mid lane. We saw a couple of interesting Realm Warps being used at the top side map, one of which cost Tsutai his life, but a couple were used in a good way. But I know you really want to talk about how that opens up the map, especially when RNG on the blue side.
Yeah, so what's interesting is that OMG opted to take red side. Of course, that makes sense because Xiaohu's had such an incredible performance in game number 1, so red side gives you the opportunity to find the counter pick in that mid lane, which, again, Icon had a very tough choice to make. I actually thought it was a brilliant blue side strategy from RNG to use triple flex to deny any sort of red side counter pick strength there. But I want to talk about red side Raptor ramp. So if you look at the map where the Baron pit is, that red ramp that goes up into the Raptor camp is pretty much the stall zone, because Baron is now so much more important on 8.1, and you have these hyperscaling wave clear champions. You know, Caitlyn's very strong in the meta. Azir's always been very potent and powerful. And so if teams can hold that ramp, they deny the Baron, because it gets that much harder to place the triangle vision, to snowball the Baron, and to close the game. The problem is that they didn't have the composition to hold the red side ramp because they gave away the Rise. Yeah. Because Rise's Realm Warp breaks that, because you can then suddenly just teleport immediately, like bring everyone and their mother into the back line.
This is the ramp you're talking about, but actually a one-team fight for OMG, where they looked like they were starting to get back into the match. However, even though they looked good in the fight, they were already so far behind.
Yeah, and this is just the nature of RNG's composition. It is a very tough composition to run. You've got a Xin Zhao in the jungle. He pretty much forces a front-to-back type of fight, because he's going to jump onto the carries, and then they have to kill the tank line, or the enemy carries have to kill the tank line before they can move on to the carries. But if him and Gnar are just trading places, and Gnar's tossing a bunch of people into a Baron pit, Gnar's probably going to win out there.
Yeah, so on top of that, don't give Rise to Xiaohu. Don't give Rise to blue side teams. They seem to always be able to run over with that.
Yeah, blue side Rise is actually a really pivotal pick. I'm glad that you brought it out, like, because there are color strong picks. It's always been a thing in League of Legends. The map is not shaped evenly. That's just the nature of the game. And I actually think blue Rise is super devastating, because again, we saw Rogue Warriors do it to Snake in game number 1 of the series before then. The red side ramp stall is such a pivotal strategy on 8.1 because it can deny the Baron for so long. Rise completely eliminates that because of how he can hand deliver people into the backline with Realm Warp.
And that's going to be such a fun matchup when we do get to see RNG go up against Rogue Warriors later on. But first, here was one of the uses around the top side map.
And the thing is at this point in the game, RNG had been struggling to crack that Baron. They had just lost the Baron play in front of the pit. They were struggling to get into OMG's red side, but it was a Realm Warp that caught out someone out of position. So it's not even just delivering into the backside on the ramp itself. It's that as they're trying to hold that area, you cannot be safe, you cannot make any mistakes, and you can snowball and close a game very easily.
And which is why it's going to make such a good matchup between Rogue Warriors as well as RNG, because Rogue Warriors, we know they're a very strong team at the moment. They picked up a win over Snake earlier today. That's where those two playstyles are really going to clash. RNG, a team that like to try and control that ramp, try to break it, whereas Rogue Warriors is a team that really wants to defend it. And we get to really see those two playstyles go up against one another.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that I don't think that RW are going to make the same drafting mistakes that OMG did. I don't think they're going to give away the Rise, especially with Doembe practicing the Cassiopeia and showing that even if they do give away the Rise, that he's fine to go into that matchup and win priority anyway. But RNG have almost set themselves up where, because now they have the ability to triple flex between support top and mid to deny you a counter pick strategy on red side. And what's interesting is RW are one of the few teams that actually have a much higher win rate and preference for red side than they do in blue side. In the LPL right now, it's usually blue side that has higher priority, because priority pick means more for us, and we like to play on that side of the map more so. But I actually think that means that blue side against RNG is actually that much more punishing, because then you deny the blue side Rise strategy if you want to leave Rise open for them.
But whenever you face off against RNG, you always have to look towards one of their star players, in Uzi, who picked up MVP off the back of that last match. We talk about him all the time, but he is the king right now.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that he necessarily wasn't really the focal point of that match. Like, nope. he did his job. He's always going to be an incredible player. Yeah, 7-0-6 can't down talk him, but it wasn't like, oh yes, Uzi has to, completely outperform. He is putting the team on his back. He is carrying the victory. It's like, nah, Uzi's just doing his job.
Which I think is the scary thing. If he's going to pick up MVP, he's going to play so well just by doing his job. What about those games where he goes above and beyond? And we know that he is a player who can single-handedly win a match for your team. In a best of 5 series, one of those games is going to be won by RNG just because because Uzi was doing so well.
It speaks to the unique flavor of the LPL. If you look over at the LCK and you see incredible teams like Kingzone, which they do have that superstar talent, you know, the Smebs and the Cons and the Peanuts and BDDs all running around, Prey and Gorilla, of course, like down into that bot lane. But it's more so the teamwork in Korea that has just been so beautiful to watch. Again, we just had KT versus Kingzone, was gorgeous to watch. But then in the LPL, it is really about that raw, brute, superstar power between all of our teams. The fact that you have Rookie and Jackie Love and the Shy, then the fact that you have, you know, Xiaohu performing like this on Rise, as well as Uzi in his back pocket, and then they've got Karsus sitting on the bench just waiting to get in, and then Rogue Warriors, you're looking at the likes of SMLZ, who is now showcasing himself as, hey, you're talking about iBoy, Jackie Love, and Uzi. Well, guess what? I deserve to be in this conversation.
The best part about that is because when we watch leagues like the LCK, where you see how they work so well as a team and they have lots of phenomenal teamwork and their strategies are always really sound, always ahead of the curve, always making sure they're one step ahead of the rest of the world. When it comes to the LPL, especially when you have the likes of Uzi or SMLZ, you see different strategies, not necessarily the best, but ones that revolve around these players, especially when you look towards Rogue Warriors. I mean, there's no other identity like their strategies in the LPL right now.
We are very fortunate in our league that we literally have players who will just win you games because of the caliber of talent that they are. And it's just that frank. And the LCK has a lot of stars, like not trying to tear them down or anything. But to be frank, the LPL is the biggest region in the world. We have 14 teams and we have more. We have more superstars than any other league, which means we have more chances for miracles.
I mean, Frosco's graphic from earlier today kind of summed it up. SOFM, one of the best junglers in the league, but he's 21st when it comes to damage percentage done as a jungler.
His team's too good. He doesn't have to do any damage.
There's just so many players in the league, so many teams as well. But that was the two matches that we had for today. So let's check in with the standings of the LPL at the moment. RNG able to pick up another victory as OMG still slide further down, 3-9 in their conference.
And it's kind of a question of who are the real contenders in the LPL. Are we going to see a late playoff run surge from EDG and WE? We're already starting to see it from RNG, or is this going to continue to be the Invictus Gaming, the Rogue Warriors, and the Snake Show?
Yeah, and just look at the Eastern Conference at the moment. IG 11-1, only dropping a single match, which was their opening game of the LPL against RNG. Rogue Warriors 10-2, you know, lost the game to IG. We don't talk about the other one.
Exactly. And the playoff race is heating up. This is our last week of cross-conference, and if you look at those teams, if you're not in 4th place, that means you're not going into our playoff gauntlet. It is a King of the Hill style, very similar to the LCK, so if you come in at 4th, that is a long road to run.
And cross-conference is quite a few weeks. I believe it's 4 weeks long.
4 to 7.
We're getting to the end of cross-conference.
Week 4 to 7.
Only 2 more days of cross-conference remaining before they go back into the regular conference play. Since then, the meta has really evolved. Back during the start of the LPL, we had Jarvans in the jungle. It was basically Jarvan and Kha'Zix only being played. It was very aggressive, very lane-focused. Now the meta has evolved. It's going to be interesting to watch these teams play against each other once again with the new meta and what they've learned from cross-conference.
And that leads me to believe that teams like BLG, teams like Snake are going to start sliding backwards a bit in the standings, because historically, if you go back all the way to 2015, all the way to 2016, this is when Snake start to slide. And unfortunately, I am going to call it. I actually think this is going to be the downfall of Snake. I think WE and EDG are going to start surging up past them. I'm not exactly sold on BLG. I'm starting to see more things evolve in their draft. I think they are learning on 8.4 and they're not as static.
Yeah.
But as a team dynamic, they simply don't have the superstars to compete with the other top teams of the LPL.
Because BLG had a good run to start the split. I mean, we were comparing them to what they looked like when they made Worlds as IMA and how they're still very similar in terms of their playstyle. But that Suning game that they had early in the week kind of cemented that. Suning have been a team that's on the rise, and they finally were able to pick up a victory over a team that's similar to them in terms of standings, taking down BLG, and it kind of sets back BLG for a playoff run.
Man, I feel like BLG and Suning are kind of like the gatekeepers. Like, if you can't beat BLG or Suning, you probably don't belong in playoffs, but I expect them to slip down towards that 4th place position.
Yeah, so that was all the games that we had for today. Unfortunately, tomorrow we will not be broadcasting the LGD taking on EDG match. However, we still have 2 other matches to be played. WE against IG. Historical matchup, followed by BLG taking on Jindal.
That is a matchup that is older than the LPL itself. WE and Invictus Gaming both came about in 2012. The LPL did not exist until 2013. So these are your Star Wars, Stars War
Stars War?
Stars War League champions.
WE taking an IG. Historical matchup. IG currently on form. Team WE have kind of swapped around a couple of members. We will have the JD against BLG match right afterwards, live from Shanghai. But also another historical match, LGD against EDG. Unfortunately, we will not be streaming that. There will still be other platforms for you guys to catch all the action if you'd like to. But again, these are two teams in very different forms. Yes, EDG slumping a little bit recently, but LGD, they picked up a few wins. They made us all excited. We were so happy for them. What the heck happened to this team?
A lot of things happened to LGD. We talked about how OMG have a bad read on the meta. I think it's pretty obvious that LGD also feel like they have a bad read on the meta. And then there's synergy issues, a lot of roster swaps going through. They couldn't decide which mid laner they were playing. Now they can't decide which AD carry that they're playing. You know, Imp's been pretty vocal that he's going to step away from the team. That would mean FDY would be the starting position ADC. And we just don't have enough tape to really make a conclusion on that guy.
So we'll have to keep track and see what happens with LGD. We won't be showing that match tomorrow, but we still have two more exciting matches to play, starting at 5 o'clock Shanghai time. But that's all from us for the broadcast today. On behalf of myself, Rusker, and analyst Clement, as well as our casters and the entire production team. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.